Hey everybody, welcome. So excited to be here this morning. Um, I am Stephanie, if we haven't met already, and today Jean Ricks-Ayer is here to talk about integrative intensives, IFS, somatic approaches, alternative healing approaches, all the things, and how they like blend together so lovely in intensives. So I'm so excited. If you're here live, get in the chat, say hello, tell us who you are. I know some folks in here do practice IFS, just like Jean.
Mhm.
And yeah, let us know what you practice and what you hope to integrate in your therapy intensives. Jean, tell us a little bit about you and your work.
Yeah, hi. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Um, I am Jean Ricks-Ayer. I'm a licensed professional counselor in St. Louis, Missouri, working in private practice. I describe myself as an integrative, depth-oriented therapist and alternative healing practitioner. I'm trained in internal family systems as well as somatic experiencing. I'm training right now in neuroaffective touch, also a certified breathwork practitioner, and trained in energy healing, Reiki specifically.
Yay. So Jean's a
Yeah.
badass, and when I'm very stressed out, I go to her for breath work, and it is how I stay sane. So that's like
Oh,
something I
yeah.
am really, really enjoying. And
Awesome.
Jean's going to be offering an IFS meditation slash breathwork experience at the Therapy Intensive Summit that's coming up. So I'm super pumped about that. If you're not on the wait list already, make sure you are because
Yes.
it's going to be amazing.
Yes. I'm excited about that. Yes.
Cool. So let
Um,
me check in the chat because we have I already knew Annie, IFS therapist. We have folks from Dallas Fort Worth. Yay. Oh,
yeah.
two
Cool.
Texas people. Amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, Annie, congratulations on your IFS certification. That's exciting. Oh,
Yay.
you're a clinical consultant. That's awesome.
Annie
That's
was in the
great.
launch guide cohort and she's amazing. So,
Oh, awesome.
so
Awesome.
yeah. Ooh, okay. Lindsay, also from Texas, CPT and somatic experiencing EMDR intertwined.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That's like my favorite part of this community is hearing all the amazing things that people
Hmm.
do and how
I
you can
love it
like
too.
blend them together, how your like life story brings you to all the different approaches,
Hmm.
and then you offer something truly like unique that nobody else can offer to your clients and like the right people find you and it's just like a magic moment. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's awesome.
yay!
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you some questions, Jean? And other
Yes,
people
please.
feel free to chime in too, because we have a lot of like shared wisdom and intuition and insight in the group with us today.
Yeah. Yeah. I love questions too. So
Yes.
feel free. Put them in the chat.
Our first question is what is it about somatic approaches that make them just like so powerful?
Hmm.
Or what has
My,
drawn you to them?
yeah. My simple answer is that we are so much more than our mind, right? And that all of our lived experiences, any trauma that we have, happens in our body as well as our mind. It impacts our nervous system, which is a part of our body and mind. So, in my work, um, as a healing practitioner, and I guess I should say that, right? Like, my intention in my work, my purpose and my passion is to support healing. And my belief is that in order for somebody to heal or to increase their capacity to hold their story, which is a huge part of healing, that we have to incorporate the body, we have to incorporate somatic approaches, we have to incorporate bottom up approaches, and we have to work with somebody in the realm of mind, body, and spirit or energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're probably getting all the like preaching to the choir, getting all the snaps. Like I'm seeing more people even put in like
Awesome.
ART, ketamine assisted therapy,
Yeah.
trauma-based therapies. Yes. Was there was there a specific situation that caused you or like moment where you realized like, oh no, I need to have an integrative approach or that is what works best for me?
hmm I think for me, it's twofold. It's while I was in grad school, I was also working in a treatment center for eating disorders and saw the impact of modalities like internal family systems and somatic experiencing, brain spotting, EMDR, and recognized that, again, the work to support somebody's healing has to be more than talk therapy. It has to be more than cognitive approach.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one piece of it. I saw it sort of working real time with people. And then on a personal note, I've been in therapy for a long time. I've worked with a somatic practitioner. I've worked with an IFS practitioner. I work now with an integrative practitioner. Um, and have just found that depending on what we're working on, I personally require different entry points into the work.
Yes, yes. Ooh, talk about those different entry points.
Sure. I mean, sometimes it's easier. I don't want to use the word easier. It's more accessible for me to
Yeah,
operate from a
available.
cognitive
Uh-huh.
place. Yeah. And sometimes I really feel my experiences energetically or somatically. Like I can oftentimes sense something in my body before I can understand what it is that I'm sensing. And so to be able to spend time with that somatic experience
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really helps me sort of flesh out what it is that I'm holding on to, which then, I can sort of um, visualize or see or be able to put words to be able to put language to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the time, especially in the traditional model of therapy or psychotherapy, there's an expectation that people can just talk about their experiences, and that's not always true. In fact, it's not true a lot of the time.
Right. I'm thinking like from my EMDR lens, like trauma that happened when you're pre-verbal, like you
Yeah,
literally cannot talk about it. You know what I
right,
mean? It's a felt set,
right,
it's a feeling state, body
right.
sensations. So yeah, I mean if you didn't have an integrative approach, it would be very, very challenging, or if not
hmm
impossible to
hmm
process that. And that's not just for early childhood trauma, that's throughout the lifespan. Maybe we
Sure.
have more access to our bodies or um,
Yeah.
different
I
things
mean,
than like our words.
right. We're multifaceted beings and we experience with many different senses. And so to have modalities that tap into those different senses in order to sort of open up the experience that we sensed in a certain way is really powerful. And I think incredibly validating for people. And I think healing often starts with validation, which can come from talk therapy, right? But often comes from just being seen and understood. And I mean, at our core, I think that that's what we all really want, right? Is to be seen, understood, and feel valued.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do a quick mic check. If
Yeah.
you are not muted, just double check. I would do it for you, but I cannot see that part of my screen. When you said like different entry points and like accessibility, I have the chat open. I'm seeing, oh, no worries. We're among friends here. But I was just gonna say, I'm seeing the comment about ketamine assisted therapy, and I'm like, what another avenue, right? To make healing experiences more like
Yeah.
readily available or accessible. So that's like I love this idea of how we can creatively integrate and like
Right.
customize.
Yeah.
That's a little businessy, but you know what I mean. The experience. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm following my questions here a little bit, but did you have something else you want to add?
No, I was just going to say that you make a really great point when you talk about customizing. I think about sort of creating a custom experience for our clients that suits their needs, right? And so to be an integrative practitioner means that we are noticing our clients, noticing where they feel they are able to access themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think it's beautiful that there are so many different ways to do that.
Yeah. Ooh, now I'm kind of jumping to different questions because, well, okay, the next one was going to be how do you feel like the intensive format? Like, I feel like you have more options, or
Oh
like
yeah.
it like sets integrative therapists free because then you can kind of like bob and weave different things together.
Hmm.
So I guess I just gave my opinion instead of asking you a question.
That's
What do
okay.
you think about that?
Yes, I think yes about that. That's really true. That's really true. And something else that I love just as a practitioner, like I often will utilize IFS and somatic experiencing. I would say that those two modalities show up in every session.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes if I'm working within the IFS model and I'm feeling a little bit stuck, I can move into somatic experiencing and like really bring those modalities together. And I think that sort of fluidity and that sort of integration can be said for a lot of different modalities and for different practitioners, but it just allows a little bit more flexibility and freedom and
Hmm.
creativity in the therapeutic process.
Can I just say that this came up in the launch guide workshop this time around? Someone who is
Hmm.
more integrative in their approach, we were really talking about like sometimes when we think of structuring intensives, you might think like, okay, from this time to this time, we'll do this activity, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do that. And like for sure, some people are very, very structured in type A, and that feels good to their system. But for other people, that is like not it at all. And it was just how you described that. Like, I know I'm gonna show up with my toolbox of different things. Tell us, like, and other people who are on the call too, who like practice multiple modalities. What's it like for you walking into like an extended session, whether it's like 90 minutes, 3 hours, or like a 3 day retreat? Um, what do you kind of have in mind in the back of your head, and how do you make the decision of when to sort of like shift or try something? Like, what's that flow feel like for you?
Right. I think that's different for everybody. Um, and I'll say, like, with regard to intensives, it can feel good to have the structure that you plan to use going into the session so that you feel prepared. And we don't ever know what parts of our clients are going to show up. We don't ever know what's going to resonate, especially if they're a new client.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure how that's going to go, and a person's parts or their story may lead them to a place that our plan doesn't support. So, I think having the foundation so that we feel confident walking into a session is great. But I also feel like as a practitioner, I know for myself, it's really important to just be really grounded. And I lead my work from intuition, which I know sounds like, kind of intangible for a lot of people, but that is the way that I lead. And that's where things like energy become really important because we sense into other people's nervous systems, and that's where attunement and resonance happens. And when attunement and resonance happens, there's more trust in the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
through that, we can really begin the, the process or the intention of the work.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with that with also with being like more intuition led, even within the structure of like a very like EMDR is highly structured, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a way to like follow your intuition and make clinical judgments and move with the client and how they're attuning.
Yeah.
I'm so curious, I've never asked you this. When you go into a longer session like that, do you
Yeah.
have like at least like I'm gonna start with this particular thing, or are you just like totally going off of whatever the person shows up with?
Yeah. I mean, I start with a really detailed intake questionnaire, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I ask people a lot of questions before I ever meet them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and part of that questionnaire, is what are you hoping to work on, essentially? What have your experiences been like in the past? What's worked and what hasn't worked? So I have an idea of what resonates with somebody before they show up.
Sure. Or like
And
if
I,
they're like, I want to work on this thing, then you're kind of like,
right,
oh, this approach is usually how I like move with that.
right.
Yeah.
The session itself and where I think somatic work lends really beautifully and where intensives lend really beautifully is I start the sessions with felt sense, right? Just feeling into what it is to arrive here, whether we're working in person or virtually. Just really noticing the container, noticing what's happening in as many realms of the person as possible, right? So, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are they sensing?
Mm-hmm.
And just really starting with that. And then from there, getting curious about what's coming up and what's feeling really present. And then that usually leads the work. But it takes time, right? And like that's where extended sessions or intensives are beautiful because it allows us time to drop in really slowly
Yeah.
and allows for the client not to feel rushed. I'm not feeling rushed. We can just take our time and be really curious. There can be more quiet space. There can be time for pause. There can be time for curiosity. And
Yeah.
then we can really move into the meat of the work, hang out there, process through, get really clear about some stuff, and then have time to come back out and ground and integrate, which is
Yeah.
hugely important, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I have so
yeah,
many questions. Let me check the chat. I think there's some
sure.
IFS chat happening here. Um, do, do, do. Oh yeah. Wondering about introductory trainings for IFS.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Lindsay. I would go through the Somatic Experiencing Institute, traumahealing.org. They have an intro to basics. So they have like a 1 day thing that you can do. You'll learn a lot, and that I think gives people a good feel for whether they want to move through with the whole training.
Uh-huh.
But definitely for somatic experiencing and internal family systems, I absolutely recommend going through the IFS Institute when possible. I know it's challenging at times, but they're changing some things to make it easier. Um, or Somatic Experiencing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
International. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah,
Um, okay, I'm keeping myself organized because if I don't,
I know.
we will just, I mean, it will be fun, but I want to make sure we cover the things we talked about. And if people on the call have thoughts or questions, hop in too. As I'm pulling up my thing again, because Facebook keeps resetting, um, are there any like lessons learned or mistakes made when it comes to
Yes.
like integrating, and we'll say like intensives, but of course it's like broader than that because it's not just about the amount of time you're spending with a person.
Yeah. Any mistakes made or lessons learned about integrative work? Is that the question?
And obviously we're not going to be like exhaustive, but I'm just curious what bubbles up. Um, Maybe for people who are like newer and haven't like done as much experimenting with
Mhm.
how to integrate different things.
Yeah. The two pieces that I can't emphasize enough are for practitioners doing your own work
Mm.
to know your intuition, to be able to sense into your clients, to be able to resonate, right, and find attunement because all of the answers about how to move through the work of course, with all of the like education and training, right? But the answer is once you have the education and training with regard to how to move through a session, I really believe come from attunement and resonance and really being connected to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And by being connected to ourselves, it allows the second thing, which is curiosity, leading with curiosity, always coming back to the questions, right? We can just essentially ask like our clients, like, what's coming up? What are you noticing? And if we can come back to those questions, usually there will be an answer about how to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I think doing our own work, working through our own shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear here.
It's fine.
Um, and and getting confident enough in that knowing to be able to move through with curiosity. Like that is a lesson that continues to be true and that continues to be reinforced in my work.
So here's a real question for you that was not on the, again, not something we talked about.
Okay.
What about the times when like we are in pain?
Hmm.
And like finding ourselves or being grounded is like not as easy or often happening. I'm just curious because that makes it so hard to do this specific type of work.
Yeah. Are you talking about like physical pain? Are you talking about
No, well,
emotional
I mean,
pain?
I guess anything. I was thinking like, someone has a loss and they are continuing to like see clients during a season of sadness or sickness or whatever. I don't know. That just like popped in my head. You know how I mean, it's hard for
Hmm.
us, no matter what you practice, right?
Hmm.
To show up for someone else
Yeah.
and hold space for them when like your life is a lot. Like
Yeah.
your hands are full with your own things. So I was just like, huh, it made me think like it would be harder to do that if you are doing a more like somatic, you're not just like checking through the like,
Yeah.
whatever. You are the instrument.
Right. That's really true. And I think that's a really good and important question. And the real answer is that it's hard. And like I've actually like very recently been moving through my own season of that, of just feeling the heaviness of some stuff in my life and feeling the heaviness of the world, right? And to both to be somebody who is connected to intuition means that you are connected to energy, you are connected to your own lived experiences on a micro level, and then of the experiences of the macro world that we live in, right?
Mm.
So it is really hard. And I know for me, when I'm feeling that way, I have to take time to get clear about what I'm feeling because it can feel like a tornado sometimes. Like you're just hanging out and all of a sudden it just kind of smacks you sideways. Right. So taking time to get clear about what I'm feeling before I'm stepping into a space with a client.
Mm-hmm.
So, what am I feeling? Right. Again, getting curious. What am I feeling? What's driving it? What do I need right now to be as grounded as possible? Right. Because we
Mm-hmm.
are human and we're going to have days where we can't be fully open or we can't be fully attuned.
Yeah.
That's the nature of being human and also the nature of our work a lot of the time because we do witness and carry so much.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's very affirming. Like just that alone
yeah.
to say like we are human and we are not always at our top capacity. We're not always able to hold, like we're not at full openness and like
Mhm.
to just hold that. Like
Yeah,
that's just what it is. Because I think I don't know if other people feel this way, but I think I get that like superhuman like expectations that just aren't possible.
totally. And I think like even in this space with this conversation, right, there are people watching, hello, who are wanting to learn and grow or feeling curious about something. And so it does feel like sometimes there's this pressure to like have the right answers and be good, right? And I think it's especially important in these spaces to show up and say, and we're human, and there are going to be days that are really hard, and there are going to be days that our intuition, our knowing, our resonance is clouded by our own experiences. So,
Can I also say there's going to be
yeah,
intensives where you think like, that was amazing. Like we should have had a camera crew in here. That was some good stuff. And then other ones where you're like, well, we did it.
yeah,
But
and
just
I,
like naming that and being honest about that.
right. And for those moments for me, especially like are really hard. It's like, oh my God, do I actually suck? Like, do I,
Right. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Do I know what I'm doing? Do I know what I'm talking about? Right? Like, I can show up in this space and be like, you got to be connected to your knowing. And then sometimes
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
session, it's like, what the hell is happening? Like, it's
Yeah. Like
not
I don't even know. But I guess that's flowing with the person and with their energy and like you just go where the work takes you. You know what I
sure,
mean?
sure. But I do think like when you are not feeling yourself, right?
Hmm.
Like getting really curious about what's coming up for you, what's going on, and having support and resources available
Hmm.
and knowing what those support and resources are, right? Like, do I need to set up a sooner session with my therapist? Do I need to call my friend? Do I need to go sit outside and journal for a little while?
Yeah.
Or, right, and this doesn't happen very often, but I think sometimes people need to hear that it's an option. Do I need to cancel my sessions today?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Right? Because if I can't show up and offer the space that I know these people need or that I promise people, if I can't show up and hold that space, then I think I'm doing a bigger disservice than I am if I cancel the session and rescheduling it.
And just like health is health. It doesn't matter if you're
Yeah,
physically sick or emotionally like having a difficult like whatever, like
yeah.
take a sick day, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm a huge
Fuck me.
so wild and intense on that. Let's do a mic check, make sure everybody's muted. Okay. Let me bring us back to our questions here because it's just fun to chat. So we talked about why somatic approaches are powerful. We talked a bit about the intensive format. Is there anything else we want to say about how to structure an extended session,
Hmm.
intensive or retreat? And I invite folks, if you are here live and you want to put in the chat ideas you have or questions you have, you're so welcome. Do you have anything,
Sorry.
Jean,
I
about
was yeah, sorry, I was looking at the chat. I apologize.
I was too.
A
No, I was
little
gonna
pop-up.
say because we talked about being in the flow, like tuning
Yeah.
with the client and then integrating, like depending on where they are.
Yeah.
Um, is there any, I mean, you also do retreats, and obviously
Hmm.
you have like a itinerary or like a schedule for the day.
Yep.
Can you talk us through like not necessarily tell us what you do at your retreats, but like sort of the spectrum of like I'm totally free flowing to like this is highly structured, you know?
Yeah. So whether we're talking about an intensive session or a retreat, for me, I'm really structured and detailed in information gathering before I'm ever in the presence of someone.
Mhm.
So asking as many questions as you need to understand this person that you're going to be spending time with, right? So
Maybe it's
go
the
ahead.
structure on the front end that like
Yeah,
like gives you the freedom to flow, and that's why it works because it's like both.
that's exactly right. That's what I was going to
Mhm.
say is like the front end work, the questionnaires, the details before I'm in a space with somebody because having the knowing, like what's really activating for this person? Where do they want to spend time? What is their hopeful outcome? Can I, in my work, I utilize some touch practices, right? So like, is this person comfortable with touch? Are there parts of their body that are not okay for me to touch? Can I use essential oils? Like getting as detailed as possible about what this person needs, what they're hopeful for, and what is
Mhm.
absolutely off limits allows me to
Mhm.
show up in spaces and move more energetically and intuitively. But I think I want to be clear that like before I'm working with somebody, aside from the questionnaires and aside from that detailed information, like I am really organized about how I like to move through a session, and I use that kind of as a foundation and a baseline. And I'm okay if we move off of that. But
Ooh.
that's just kind of what helps me feel really solid and confident moving into the work.
Could you tell us a little bit about your organization?
In terms of the foundation that I'm talking about,
In terms of
or
like how you said, because you just said I'm like very organized how I move through a session, but then if we like,
move
you know,
off of it, it's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think one, it depends on what somebody's coming in for. It depends on how
Sure.
long the session is, right? If we're doing an intensive or whatever. But what I know is that at the start, there is always going to be an opportunity to drop in and arrive
Mhm.
somatically. Like that sort of think, feel, sense experience is always going to happen in the beginning. What are you noticing, right? Like, and that's a huge piece. And then the middle is where there's the most variability or fluidity, right? Like, that's where we kind of move in and out of whatever modalities or approaches lend to the energy in the space or the work that the client wants to do.
Yeah.
So it might be IFS, it might be somatic experiencing, it might be an energy healing or a breathwork session. And then at the end, we kind of, I kind of move through where we've been, right?
Hmm.
Sort of a recap. This is kind of where we started. These are some pieces that we touched on. This is where we landed. And usually there's an opportunity to connect the dots. Like if, from like one of my measures for myself, like did I do well is like, did we
Full circle. Yeah.
did we full circle? Yeah. And then an opportunity at the end of session to really ground and integrate again, and then move through the think, feel, sense, right? And
Hmm.
just noticing what's different now, what's shifted,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that because I think a lot of people like need an opportunity to walk out and go, even if they're like, I don't know what the hell that was, but this is how I feel, and this
Yeah.
is what feels different for me, and this is what I can take with me out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's helpful to hear. I think a lot of us, like, regardless of the modality or what we integrate, I think have like a similar, like, bookend. I love what you
Mhm.
said, like arriving and like recapping and like what happens in the middle. That's like still to be written. I know other
Yeah.
other folks have like, highly structured or like skill building or psychoed kind of
Hmm.
intensives that may look a little bit different, but when you're doing integrative work, I could definitely see that like structure, beginning, middle, end, bookend
Hmm.
kind of thing being really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who are watching, is this helpful to you? Is this interesting to you? Do you have other thoughts or questions on the topic of integrative work? Um, Jean's an open book. I'm throwing her the hard questions that I did not give her uh, time to prepare for. Okay, I'm hearing it's helpful. Okay, let me check back on our.
Yeah, are you watching Facebook while we're doing this? I'm impressed by your multitasking abilities.
It's a skill that you develop. No, I'm checking back on
Yeah.
our like agenda. Here I am. Um,
While you're looking at that, Annie, I'm wondering, are you asking us to revisit the idea of somatic experiencing training, or are you revisiting the idea of somatic experiencing training? Okay, okay, great, cool.
yeah. Okay. the last thing on our list was why it's important to incorporate somatic work for deeper trauma healing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we started with that, right? Speaking of full circle.
Full circle.
But in short, again, like if part of the meaning and purpose of somebody's work is to help people heal, is to help people know and understand themselves, is to help people release whatever it is they don't want to carry anymore, we have to include the body
Mhm.
because our bodies not only hold our nervous system, which is both impacted by every experience that we have and also drives every experience that we have, part of the driver. It's in the bus of drivers in a big way. Um, but like our bodies hold memories. Our bodies hold experiences energetically. And I know that that for some people is a controversial statement, and I know that there are some people that just don't believe it. And okay, cool, like to each their own. My personal feeling is that if our intention is to help people in a deeper way, we have to include the body.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think like because it holds energy, because it holds nervous system, because it holds our stories and our lived experiences, and because it's impacted by everything that we do, um, but also because I think it's important to interact with and treat people as whole people.
Yeah, right. Whole healing, whole approach.
Yeah.
As you were saying that, it popped in my mind, because there are other therapists who are also like do energy work.
Hmm.
And I'm curious if you have anything to share with folks who are like, okay, how might I integrate that into an intensive? Because it's one thing to like
Yeah.
switch from IFS to somatic experiencing. People may
Right.
not notice. It's like simply just, our like posture, the way we ask, but shifting into a breath work moment or a Reiki moment requires probably a little bit more, like it's a bigger adjustment.
It is a bigger adjustment, and it's an interesting world to be in as a practitioner because I think for a long time, and I think in many ways is still really true. This is going to be a long answer. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I feel really passionate about this. But like in the therapy world, in the psychotherapy world, it's been really taboo to incorporate energy. It's even been taboo to incorporate the body, right? And so, like, in many ways, this still feels like an uncomfortable space to be in, even if we sort of cognitively believe that it's good.
Yeah.
There are implicit biases about that. And I think then on the other side, there's like the healing world, right? Where we're talking about energy healing and breath work and all these alternative practices. And for a long time, they've been really separate worlds. Therapy or psychotherapy, psychology has been a part of the medical world for a long time.
Mhm.
So to bring the two together, I think is something that can feel really uncomfortable. And there's a lot of conversation in the community too about making sure that they are kept separate if you are going to be a practitioner of both.
Mhm.
And my personal feeling is that they are beautifully integrated and again lend to this sort of whole person, whole healing experience.
Mhm.
So to bring that into practice, I will say it is more difficult to do with existing clients that have maybe only ever known you as a talk therapist or an IFS therapist, right?
Mhm.
Because now we're
Mhm.
talking about working differently and in a more intimate way,
Mhm.
right? It is more intimate and it is more vulnerable when we start to move into somebody's energy space. So I'm really clear about the work that I do. Like I talk about it on my website. I talk about it on my socials. I talk about the work that I do. People know that this is the kind of work that I do when they come to me.
Mhm.
I'm also, again, kind of going back to that front end, behind the scenes intake
Yeah.
work. Like, what is the work that you want to do? What do you feel open to? And what feels off limits to you?
Mhm.
Um, so that information is really clear when I start working with somebody. And also, if somebody's coming to me and they're saying, like, all I want to do is talk therapy, it's probably not my client. And I might refer that person out.
Right, right.
And then informed consent, right? I can't emphasize that enough. In the informed consent, this is the work that I do.
Mhm.
And there's an opportunity for you to opt out always. You can
Mhm.
always say no.
At
And
any
like
moment, yeah.
at any moment, you can change your mind. You can say that you don't want to do something. You can say that you do want to try something.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then in the work itself, there's a tremendous amount of consent along the way, always. Like I don't care how long I've been working with somebody, I'm never going to assume that something's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just a ton of consent and a ton of communication.
Mhm.
And then just really clear boundaries, both from the client, which might require some boundary work on the front end of the relationship,
Yeah.
which is so fun and wonderful. I love it.
You're like, it's happening right now as we're doing this.
Yeah. So a lot of consent, a lot of boundaries, both from my client and from me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And really honoring those boundaries because the fastest way to rupture trust is to cross boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So helpful because I'm not from like I don't practice energy work though I like love to experience it. So I know
Hmm.
that that has come up in the Facebook group. People saying I was told I need to keep it separate, but it sounds like in intensives I can blend them together and just like curiosity around that. So
Yeah.
thank you for speaking to that.
Hmm. You're
And I
welcome.
love the comment in the chat. We're always doing some sort of energy work. It's just we're not always aware of it.
Yeah, which like kind of brings me back to the importance of doing your own work because it's important to understand and know the kind of energy that you are sharing and offering
Yeah.
and what you're feeling from other people.
Ooh.
And I think
Man, that's
for
a whole
people,
other thing. Yeah.
yeah, and for people who are interested in incorporating energy work, I think it's important to acknowledge too that it doesn't have to include touch, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
Reiki does not require touch, breathwork does not require touch. I'm a believer that touch can be incredibly healing, but that's always and only going to happen with consent.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
and touch is not required to utilize those modalities.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Love it. Annie said something similar to that I was thinking. She said, I found out that I'm very sensitive to other people's energy. So it's really interesting. Yeah. When you said like the energy you're giving off, but then the energy you're like absorbing, especially in the work we do. And, you know, a lot of us start out in very high stress, high demand environments, and that energy, you know, it has an impact.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any other questions or thoughts? Ooh, I feel that
Yeah.
too, living in an apartment with so much energy around. The amount of like
Mhm.
stress relief I felt when I no longer lived in an apartment was like unreal. I could not have ever imagined that. Like shocking.
Apartment buildings and like office towers. Like
Oh, I'm in one of those.
right, but I mean, when I share an office suite with three other people, and there's energy from those other people in the space. There's energy from me in the space, but like I used to work in an office tower, and it just was like overwhelming for my system because there were so many
Interesting.
different nervous systems and energy fields coming through the space.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Cool. Oh my gosh. Well, Jean, thank you so much. This is a
you're welcome.
I enjoyed this conversation so much. Um, energy hygiene. I'm writing this down. We should have a little moment of that. Um, I'm gonna say a little something. Um, I mentioned this in the beginning. I'm gonna mention it again. Jean's
Mhm.
wonderful. She's gonna be speaking at the Therapy Intensive Summit and doing a live like IFS breath work meditation event to be like our closing activity. I'm really excited about that. Our energy and bodies like need things when we've absorbed so much information.
Mhm.
Um, so
That's true.
really excited about that. Um, if you're not on the wait list yet, it's therapyintensivesummit.com. And all the info is going to be dropping pretty soon here. April 22nd is when registration opens. I can't wait. I'm like getting ready to preview some like little trailer sneak peeks, which
Oh,
is
fun.
fun. But Jean, if people are just want to connect with you, they want to learn from you, consult with you, what's the best way that they can connect? And oh, I'll say I'm going to Jean's retreat too. So let me plug that
Thank,
because
thank
I'm pretty
you.
excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's gonna be good. Um, yes, Anteater retreats. I'm so excited. There's one in August, and one in October. They're both small. I think they should be somewhere between 5 and 8 people. So they're really small, intimate, really special, beautiful gatherings. They are for women, people identifying as women. Um, and yeah, they're focused on reconnecting to self, releasing what you're ready to let go of, and restoring what you're ready to invite in. Um, and if people want to get in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Jean Ricks-Ayer, LPC. And you can also visit my website, which is jeanricksayer.com. And I am also, these bits are not yet on my website, but I want people to know that I am offering coaching with like integrative coaching to help sort of get unstuck and to help people move through fear and achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. I'm calling them like dreamiest dreams, or the biggest goals, and then also offer professional consultation for people who are looking to deepen and expand their integrative practice.
Hey,
Whew, that was a lot.
awesome. I know, right?
Yeah,
Awesome. We'll put some of those links in the Facebook group, like in the event.
cool.
And yeah, thanks so much for
Thank you,
sharing
Stephanie.
with us. Thanks so much
Yeah,
to everybody who joined. And we'll keep anybody who's watching the replay, we'll keep an eye on the chat. Feel free to drop in your questions, comments, what you're integrating, what you're creating in your intensive spaces to bring more healing to your clients and to the world. Yay!
thank you, Stephanie. Thanks everybody for your questions and participation. It was awesome.
It was awesome. All right. See
Yeah.
you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.